Welcome to our Autumn 2025 Wealth Matters client event. I'm Miley Wong, and today we're excited to explore AI and the future of wealth. Smart tools, smarter decisions. A conversation about how emerging technologies are reshaping the way we plan, invest, and protect your financial future. We've got a great lineup of speakers curated here for you today as part of our way of creating value for you as a client, and we hope you enjoy today's event. У нас сегодня отличная команда спикеров, подобранная специально для вас, как часть нашего стремления создавать ценность для вас, как для клиента, и мы надеемся, что вам понравится сегодняшнее мероприятие. Abbiamo una fantastica selezione di relatori qui per voi oggi come parte del nostro modo di creare valore, per voi come clienti. E speriamo che apprezziate l'evento di oggi. 我们为您精心策划了今天的精彩演讲阵容。作为我们为客户创造价值的一部分，祝您今天的活动愉快。Nous avons une excellente sélection d'intervenants réunis ici pour vous aujourd'hui, dans le cadre de notre démarche de création de valeur pour vous en tant que client, et nous espérons que vous apprécierez l'événement d'aujourd'hui. What you are watching isn't actually live. This is a digital version of Miley, created using AI and speaking in multiple languages with her cloned voice. We're showing you this to demonstrate how powerful AI has become and how it continues to evolve in increasingly sophisticated ways. So please be sure to reach out to us directly at the Wong Group at Wellington Altus Private Wealth to learn more about how to secure a trustworthy and valuable client experience. That video was only created with a still image and snippets of my voice that are available on the internet. Pure AI. And that's what's available today that can happen to each and every one of you. And so I'm equally fascinated by this prospect, but a little bit terrified at how easy it is for AI to create a fake, essentially. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us as we embark on evolving and better technology? What does that mean for our safety, our security, how we think about phone calls we receive from loved ones, from family members? How do we prevent nefarious fraud attempts? But what are also the opportunities from an investment standpoint, from a ease of use and planning trips and all sorts of other benefits that they can develop from using AI? So you'll get to hear from two incredible speakers and learn, first, what is AI all about? And how does it impact our lives? You'll also learn how to protect yourself from some of the more nefarious ways that AI is being used, how to spot AI misinformation. You'll also learn how AI is being used in positive ways to enhance your financial experience, and you'll gain some exclusive market insights as well about how to take advantage of these opportunities in your portfolio. All right, very exciting. So let's start with John. Tell us a little bit about what is AI and how has it evolved to where it's useful today? How does it impact our lives?
That's a great question to start with. And for most of us, when we first started to see the effects of AI, were with our smartphones. All of a sudden, one day, it started to predict and give us the next word or maybe part of the word that we were starting to type in. That was the first form of it. AI originally, it's a neural network that acts a lot of similar to how our brain does, but it was really good at recognizing patterns. So it could figure out what you were probably going to use as your next word based on what you've used in the past. Then when 3 years ago, we started to hear about this magical thing called ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was where we came into that next part, was called generative AI, where you could ask it a question and it would generate an answer really quickly for you, which was very different from before. We were all using Google if we needed to search. Now you had a tool that could actually take you to exactly the answer that you wanted. It evolved a little bit more. In the past year and a half, we've been working with a lot of models that we call reasoning models. And they go through thought processes similar to how we go about looking at a question. And rather than giving you an instant answer, they think about it. They look at it from different angles. And if you've given it a really thoughtful question, it'll spend a lot of time trying to deliver an answer that is extremely good for you. Just recently, you might have heard people talking about AI agents. And they don't look like 007, and they're not driving fancy cars. But all of a sudden, you can give AI, rather than a question, you can give it a larger task. Look at it like a general contractor. You can give it parameters of what you're trying to do, and it'll actually go out and do that work for you. So that's kind of where we're at now. My crystal ball can't look too far into the future, but it is moving very quickly if we just look at the last 2 or 3 years.
So how can AI be useful for us as Canadians?
Well, you know, in our day-to-day life, it should be giving us back a little bit of time. There's a lot of repetitive tasks or things that just, we don't want to do, but we still need to get them done. That can be anything from planning a trip where you can now give it a destination and have it do research and come back to you with travel arrangements, hotels to stay at, everything based on what it is that you might want to do. We use it day to day for a lot of people in digesting large bits of information. It can go through maybe manuals that you might have or anything that is a lot of words, and it can condense it down and give it to us in a form that's really simple and easy to kind of get a summary and really get the gist of it quickly.
So that sounds really exciting, but what are some of the risks, John, of using AI?
Because AI can do things very fast, sometimes we give it more credit than it deserves. Speed doesn't equate to a really good answer. It can be incredibly confident with a wrong answer. And by wrong answer, I don't mean that it's adding numbers incorrectly. A wrong answer is more a case that it's misunderstood the question that we gave it, or it doesn't have all the context to it. So if we're too quick to take that answer and say, well, that's got to be right because it's AI, we can find ourselves being reassured about something that really doesn't align with our values or the direction that we want to go.
So really, there are certain tasks that AI is really good at, and others where you would still rely on human judgment. Is that correct?
100%. The human judgment part really can't be overrated. AI can do amazing things. It can recognize patterns. It can compile information. It can do deep research and think about a lot of things at once. But without the context, which is so much of what we have as humans, even when we look at intuition, when we know something doesn't feel right. So AI, I tend to talk about it in the groups that I go to speak at more as a co-pilot. It's a really good companion to have for helping you do certain tasks, but it's not ready to drive a ship. We still need to be the ones that align the compass, but we want it around for the journey to do the heavy lifting with us.
So what's one myth about AI that you think is worth debunking?
I'll probably go back to the myth about its intelligence. We tend to, when we see something that's a shiny object or doing some pretty incredible things, even the fact that we could create a duplicate, so to speak, of Miley, we can sometimes believe that it has more ability than it does. Look at a scenario of AI being similar to how people went to Google right away when it came out to try and figure out, what illness might I have? And it sort of feeds you things that align with maybe what you want to hear. AI is quite complementary. So we can, in the way that we ask a question, it's very easy for us to get the answer that we want to hear that supports our beliefs rather than the answer that we need to hear. Hope that helps you. Yeah.
So on data and privacy, how secure is AI, and what risks do we pose by typing in a question about our personal lives into, say, one of the ChatGPT windows? Is that safe to do so? Where does that information reside? What should we be thinking about when it comes to protecting our own privacy and data security with AI?
That's a great question, and I could go into a real long one, but I won't go too long onto it. But when we look at where does information go, we call this thing the cloud. The cloud really means someone else's computer. In the case of AI, that's a lot of computers. There are ways that you can safeguard information that you put in, but those have to be consciously done and with certain programs to ensure that. So you find with banks, with organizations like the Wong Group, all the steps are taken into advance. But I look at personal information, credit card numbers, social insurance numbers, any banking information. Treat it the same way that you would, you would never put that in an email to someone. You'd never put it in a way that could get out there. With AI, think about things that are very important to you, and those should not be part of the conversation at all with AI.
Right. So, in other words, if you copy and paste information or you type information into a web browser that's potentially using AI, would that be then open up to the broader internet?
Without having protections in place, the easiest answer is yes. They in the
Jim's
world.
Laughing at us for a reason here. Do I sound like a dinosaur?
Yeah. Don't put your private information on the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. In the world of AI, they call that training the model, but we don't want to train it with our information.
Right.
We want someone else's information trained on it.
Right. So please don't do this at home. And I think partly what we want to do today is share some of the common troublesome things that our clients have run into anonymously, just for the better and the sake of your protection. I think it's helpful for you to know some of the common scams and ways that AI has been used recently to actually been able to have people lose a lot of money as a result. So first of all, I wanted to ask John, when you come across situations in your experience, what are some of the common pitfalls people run into so that we can collectively avoid these pitfalls?
Well, scammers and fraudsters have been around since the beginning of time, and that part hasn't changed, but they've been able with new tools that can do things at mass and at speed. Common ones are often ones that are looking for your banking information, credit card information. And why it makes it more dangerous now is before, a lot of those scams would happen by recruiting humans in different countries to be on the phone, picking up the phone, quite unrecognizable to us, telling us that we might have used our credit card or someone used our credit card where it shouldn't be. Now AI is able to duplicate voices that are professional within whatever area you're in. And to give you an example, Vancouver's pretty large people-wise. I come from Kamloops, and it seems very large out here. But AI could call every single individual here in Vancouver in just a matter of an hour or so in the evening and adjust its tone to different people's households with the same question. So it's been more of a multiplier factor. And it also creates now greater and greater scenarios that make you feel like you should trust it. So there's some steps I know we're going to talk about when it comes to trust and what to avoid, but financial fraud is probably the main target for AI these days.
Right. So we're going to talk about a few of these tips as well. But also wanted to find out what are some ways that folks in this room can be able to spot the difference between, fake information that AI is perhaps populating versus real information.
Fake information generally tries to hide its source of where it's coming from. So when we're getting information that doesn't necessarily sit right for us, what we want to do is actually go and do a search and try and go to a reputable source to try and find out, does this news article actually exist? Is there a company behind this email address? A lot of times when we get scams, an email looks just about perfect, except there might be just one little word off in it. Phones used to be a good way that caller ID would tell us if you were going, but there's ways to bypass it so you can actually have a display on your screen that says CRA, but it's not the Canadian Revenue Agency. It's another scam out there. So the first thing to do is try to look and verify. If you're ever given a phone number to call back on if you don't trust maybe a call that's come through that could be AI. Don't never call a number that's been given to you. Look up the number for the agency or the organization first, because you want to be making sure you're getting to actually the credible sources, not being something that's created and taking you down the path a little further.
Thanks, John. So that's actually one scam, if you will, that we've had a client come across. And so they received a phone call from someone pretending to be from the CRA and asking them to send money to a specific place. Usually it's a wire transfer request. Wires are very difficult to retract once they're done. So that's one red flag. No one should be asking you to wire them money. And anyways, they said it was related to a party that was being investigated, and it would help them in their investigation if they could wire money to this particular account. And being that they said they were from the CRA, that client thought it was, really them, and unfortunately did send money, not through us, but through their bank account to this other account. And then they started to receive more phone calls from this same CRA agent, which obviously was not the CRA. And after a series of wire transfers that went out, they realized something was off. They called the police, RCMP got involved. Sadly, not all of that was able to be retraced. And so that's one example where, CRA is calling is now such a prevalent scam, it's actually on the Government of Canada website. I'll share another example. This is also a spoof using AI where a client received a phone call from someone who sounded like their grandchild, calling them Grandma Patty, which is like a nickname that only the grandchild called them. Scary. And this AI scammer asked them to send them money right away because they needed that money and they needed help. And of course, what grandparent isn't going to have a bleeding heart for that? Sent the money, and it was a scam. So these types of things are pretty prevalent. There's also situations where online dating app. We had a client who he had lost his spouse and developed a relationship with someone they had met online. That someone wasn't a real someone, and that someone asked for money to be wire transferred, and unfortunately, it turned out after a number of wire transfers that money was gone and that scammer was gone. And the list goes on and on. And I say this to you because these are intelligent people who are generally the target because they have wealth, and each and every one of us needs to be more and more aware of these types of things that are out there. And we'll share more examples as we go forward.
Oh, that's great. Good examples, unfortunate examples, but very good examples of some of the bad characters that are out there right now.
Right. So what are some ways then that we can kind of protect ourselves?
I think one of the first ones, because you got to remember that fraudsters always rely on urgency. Slowing things down. A simple thing of not acting on anything instantly or quickly and taking a moment to phone someone you trust, and talk it through. So giving yourself time is an instant that you can do right away. Also, looking closely at anything that's come through, looking to see does it have the same logo, does it have the same email address? Doing some double checks. Be very wary when someone just wants to start a relationship with you right away, or if you're getting a request to leave and talk to them on a particular platform. WhatsApp seems to be a common one that people want to use now, getting you onto a different platform where they may have control, or suggesting that you keep this private, just between yourself and themselves. But it generally will be something that will try to get you to do something urgently. And everyone here is incredibly intelligent, but we still can fall prey to certain things, especially when it comes to talking about family. It might be maybe families had an accident or got in trouble, so it captures us emotionally. And then they prey on trying to get you to do something really, really quickly. So just taking a little bit of time is probably the quickest, easy step.
Thanks, John. Another red flag I'd say is if someone on the phone, whether it's pretending to be the RCMP or whomever of authority, asks you to open a crypto wallet and fund it with money. There's been so many different fraudulent scams regarding this. One situation where a client heard from a friend about a really great crypto opportunity. They opened a crypto wallet and they began trading in some of these cryptocurrencies, following a high-profile guru in the crypto space. And over the course of time, gains showed up that weren't real gains necessarily, but they wanted to take some profits, get some of their money out, because they felt they had done quite well in that crypto investment. And they were told, oh, if you want to take your money out, you have to bring more money in first. So that's also a very big red flag. But they did. And over the course of probably 6 to 8 months, this crypto investment continued until they realized it was a scam and they lost $800,000. So it happens, and oftentimes these don't go reported, and you don't hear about it for whatever reason, But I'll share with you a very common one that's been in the news a lot. It's a video of some very kind of famous people, whether it's Kevin O'Leary or Mark Carney, and they're talking about an investment opportunity. In one case, it was called Invest Can, where you put in $350 and they'll give you $3,000 a month. And it's here to support Canada's growth. I mean, who doesn't want to support Canada, right? But it's a complete scam, and it was a spoof. It was a fake video taking a photograph of this notable figure and creating a video that looked very real. So we share this with you so you're aware, because first step is awareness, and then have that, hopefully that reminder, oh yeah, I came to this event. I heard this really great guy named John talk about watch out for these types of things so that you think twice. And thankfully, people called us to say, hey, is this real? And we said, no, it's a scam. Save them hundreds of thousands, perhaps, of dollars. So if you're in doubt, give us a call, and we'll look into it for you. We're all in the process of trying to stay 2 steps ahead, but they're getting better and better. Okay, so it's exciting, but it's also important to stay vigilant when it comes to these types of things.
100%. The old saying about if it sounds too good to be true, that it's not. I mean, that hasn't changed at all, and it's happening still today.
So, John, how do you protect yourself?
In a lot of different ways, but maybe I'm going to give a little plug here where it's due. I work in AI. I live it, use it every day. Yet I use the Wong Group and I use Miley to manage our family's wealth, and because I understand both the limitations as well as what it can do. And one of the things that's so important is the human part of what we are in terms of how we look and how we digest things. AI can do so many things for us right now, but one of the things that it doesn't have is the judgment part. It doesn't understand our past. It doesn't understand our families. It doesn't understand our goals. So although it can help us with a lot of tools to calculate things, to research or do other things, when it comes to that trust factor, the trust factor is still, I think, one of the most important human characteristics that we look for in relationships from a personal side and, of course, relationships from a business side.
Thank you. Yeah, so protect your information. Hang up, call back a trusted relationship. If it's a bank calling, hang up, wait, probably 30 seconds to a minute, because sometimes they have a mechanism to stay on the phone while you've hung up, and then when you call back, they're actually still there. So give it some time, and then actually call the number on your physical bank card. Also, I would say don't just trust when you type in, the bank and you call the first number on the top line of the internet listing. The reason is because we've had situations where, you're calling to fix your iPhone, right? You Google Apple, and you want to call, if you see incorrect charge in your Apple account? Well, the first one that shows up is actually usually a sponsored ad, not the actual Apple website. And that sponsored ad, you don't know who's putting that ad out. And we've heard firsthand of an experience of someone who's called that number, and it was actually direct line to a fraudster. Was on the phone with them for an hour as they asked, oh yes, we would be happy to update your Apple ID and financial information. We need your bank account information. We need all your bank information. An hour later, they had drained out part of their bank account. Okay, so these are things I think to be aware of as you go forward. And again, they're getting better and better, not create fear, but rather create an opportunity for you then to know, okay, how I can be resilient? Hang up, call the people that I trust. Or, disconnect that phone call, reset a new phone call to a correct number.
Nothing will happen if you don't give information out. That's the thing. Just take the pause and think about it and call the right people.
Thank you, John.